Maura Tierney, you star in The Affair as Helen Soloway, whose husband starts an extramarital relationship with a woman in Montauk. What appealed to you about this character?
What appealed to me about the character was kind of basically that I got to play two characters. I got to play the character as seen through the eyes of Noah, Dominic's character, and as seen through the eyes of Allison, who's Ruth. So it was fun. It was knowing that I'd get to play two kind of very different women in every episode.
How is the as an actor, do you approach a character like that? Is the approach different when the truth of what she's actually thinking and feeling might be kind of obscured by these sort of unreliable narrators?
Yeah, which is why I didn't try to think about the truth too much. I sort of kind of for all we know, none of it happened like that. Everybody's memory is so subjective. Um, I think I didn't try to worry about which side was true or not true. I thought it was sort of more interesting to just believe them both.
Yeah, do you
But I
ever
do think everyone's memory is quite specific to them to themselves.
Do you ever try to imagine, for yourself, when you're playing the character, what maybe Helen's side of the story might be if we ever hypothetically got to see it from her perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we will see it actually next season. We'll see both Helen and Cole's perspectives. So, I actually just got the scripts, so I don't know what it is yet, but I'll find out as soon as I hang up with you guys. I'm going to read them.
That would be interesting to see. Have you ever had any theories, developed any thoughts about what's really going on that you might be able to find out when you eventually get to read those scripts?
Um, yeah, I know. I'm very curious as to how Helen sees Noah, um, because in the beginning, from Noah's point of view, Helen's kind of very idealized. She's sort of perfect, and she's really together, and she's a great mom, and her parents are a drag, but he views her as sort of this very warm, kind of really, you know, warm, likable person. And that could be his guilty conscience. I mean, maybe she's not that. Maybe that's him remembering her that way because he wants to bestow that on her because he left her. So I'm really curious to see how Helen views herself, well, what I look like, what the wardrobe's like, and the hair and makeup. And does Helen view Noah the same way, in the same sort of idealistic, very sort of deeply loving view?
Yeah, and it's interesting because not only will you be able to play that direct side of Helen, but you'll also, in a sense, be acting against a third version of Noah that we might see a new side to that character and
Right, exactly. And does Helen sort of feel that she bears any responsibility for the breakdown of the marriage?
thinking about how the show recalls brings up thoughts about how memory works and whether how we distort the past events of our lives. Do you think there's any possible way for any of us personally to remember our pasts without these kinds of biases getting in the way?
No, I don't. I know that I've been, for example, at an event or at a party with someone, and we are experiencing the exact same event of, say, what happens during the party, and I've walked away with both of us thinking, because we were lacking certain pieces of information or didn't see where someone was at one point in the party, and we assumed something was going on that wasn't going on, that we both walked away with literally completely different ideas. So that's not even memory. That's like experiencing a moment of two people in the same physical place experiencing it completely differently. And I think that's unavoidable and also interesting.
How do
So
you
I
think?
don't know if we can ever like purely remember the events without any sort of emotional, shadings.
How do you think Helen is different through Allison's point of view as opposed to Noah's? Like, how do you play those? What exactly differences do you find yourself playing?
I think that the character through Allison's point of view is much colder. She's much more aloof. she's much more class conscious and snobby. She's more glamorous. She wears nicer clothes. I wear more makeup. They pay more attention to my hair. The jewelry's more expensive. So she's the character's supposed to be more intimidating, and on every level. And I think they do a good job of that. The writers and hair and makeup and wardrobe and everybody.
Eventually, during the first season, Helen found out about the affair between her husband and Allison, and you have some emotional confrontation scenes with Dominic West. What was it like working together on some of those more emotionally charged scenes?
Um, well, it was hard, but it was great. I love working with him. He's a great actor. He's extremely relaxed and responsive. So when both of us are really paying attention to each other, I think we work really well together. So it's hard, but the whole cast is pretty tight because we have to sort of, cry and get naked and do humiliating things in front of each other fairly often. So you feel pretty comfortable.
What is it like, filming the show in general? Like, is there, a lot of takes, or is there a lot of, is there any improvisation from the script, or how does that feel on set?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the director. We have different directors. Jeffrey Reiner, who is our main director, doesn't do a lot of takes. They try to keep it as kind of realistic as possible. So he'll often shoot with two cameras, covering as much as possible, especially in those scenes where we have to scream and yell or do whatever, because it's nicer not to have to keep doing a million takes. And I think Showtime and Sarah, everyone wants the feel of the show to be pretty intimate. So we don't tend to do a lot of takes. What was the other question? It's fun. We also have a good time.
And is there any, is it very strictly scripted, or is there any freedom
Oh,
to?
we can, yeah. I mean, what the writers generally like is to do the scene. I mean, there'll be discussion if one of the actors feels that you really aren't behind what's in the script. There'll be a discussion with the writers, and that stuff's usually addressed beforehand. But sometimes the writers will say, just try it. And then the writers will go, you're right. That's too long. Cut it. And then as long as they get sort of what they need, we're allowed to sort of improvise a little bit. Or a lot. Whether or not it makes it into the show, I don't know. But it's encouraged.
You were at the Golden Globes a few months ago because the affair was up for Best Drama Series, and it actually won that award. Was there a big celebration after that for the cast and crew?
Yeah, no, there was, but I sort of like lost everybody. I mean, I don't know, because Ruth won and Sarah won. So Ruth and Sarah were sort of off doing press, and they said everybody has to go to this place to take a group picture. So and he was waiting to see if he won, or maybe he didn't win. I don't know. But so I went to the area because I'm very obedient, and I was just sort of sitting on this couch in this huge party, but people had sort of. Josh was there with Diane. I don't know. We all kind of dispersed. But yeah, it was fun. We sat together all night before that happened.
You've been in other projects over the years that have been on the awards radar. Was this your first Golden Globes, or have you been there a few times before?
No, it was the first time I've ever been. It was fun.
You always hear, about how, a lot of award shows like the Emmys and the Oscars and things like that can be more formal, but the Golden Globes are looser and more relaxed, and with of course the free wine flowing everywhere. Was that a good part of that experience?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely looser, and there's free wine flowing everywhere, which I didn't have any of until after the show. But that definitely makes for a looser thing. But I feel like the Golden Globes have started to people behave a little bit better. Back in the day, it was kind of really wild. But it seems to me now it's kind of been folded into the award season in a way that's a little bit more. People are a little bit more dignified. But it was still fun because it's every TV star and movie star you've ever seen together in one room, which is really, really, it's just weird and funny.
The other thing you hear sometimes about the Golden Globes is that the poor TV folks, they put them in in the cheap seats while the movie stars are up front. Was that sort of the
Yeah,
way it worked?
that's exactly what happened. It's more like the inner ring and then the outer ring. So the movie stars are in the inner ring, and then the TV people are sort of on the outer. It's not That's not entirely true, but there is definitely part of sort of high school cafeteria vibe going on. Yeah, but
Uh,
it's okay because it's fun anyways.
the Emmy Awards are coming up in a few months, and if you're nominated for your role in The Affair, you'll have to submit an episode that you think represents your best work. Do you have a highlight episode from the first season that you thought was especially strong or meaningful for your character, or where you were really proud of the performance you gave?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I get to do it. I think Showtime is responsible for picking. Um, but I think any of the episodes in the end, I feel like the episode, I forget, I think it was the episode when my character finds he tells her that he's having an affair. I think is a really nice episode because that Helen gets a chance to open up and people get to see her in a little bit more depth. And um, I liked that a lot, and I liked to get to play it, and I liked it was a really slow moment because Sarah, who created the show, always says that partially what the show is about is our darker impulses and what happens when they arise, and what happens if you follow them, and what happens if you fight them. So for the first time in the series, Helen is getting some really bad news, and it's interesting to watch how she handles that. So I liked that episode a lot.
You were nominated for an Emmy once before for ER, and that was a very different show. It was fast paced and a lot of medical jargon. How is it different working on something like The Affair compared to that experience?
Um, I mean, it's very different in a lot of ways. I mean, this show is, like I say, much more intimate, and the scope is a little bit smaller. I mean, I know it also has like the mystery aspect, the whodunit part, but yeah, ER was just a much broader. It was a busier show. But I think the reason why I was nominated for an Emmy that time was because of my work with Sally Field, which was super intimate, and she was so amazing playing my mom. So that was probably just as much about a relationship as this show is about.
You joined ER in the middle of its run, but you ended up being actually one of its longest running cast members. You stayed on it for 10 years. Was it
No,
extreme?
no, 8.
Oh, 8? Oh, I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
thought still quite a
That's okay.
while there.
It is quite a while.
Was it extremely emotional to eventually say goodbye to that show?
Yo, yes, it was hugely emotional. I still remember. It was a really great day. Uh, And then when we wrapped my last scene, Chris Chulak, who was directing that scene, who was a producer, played "In My Life" by the Beatles. It was really sweet. It was really sweet. It's a huge. I miss those guys. We're real good friends. That last group of us are still close. It was really fun.
You mentioned that you gotten some scripts for the next season of The Affair, and but how far in advance do you usually get scripts or get know the storylines? Did you know the entire first season how that would shape up when you started?
No, we don't get them. It's not a situation of like other shows where people are freaking out because the scripts aren't coming in. I mean, that can happen because writers can get behind. That doesn't happen to us. Like we were given the shows, probably a week to two before we shot them. Maybe sometimes a little less, but around that. And I liked not knowing what was going to happen. I didn't ask the writers to tell us what was going to happen. I didn't go in there. Like, it was easier for me to play that part with no idea, who died or how they died. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff basically until the scripts came out because I didn't want to be changing the way I played things. So we get them, a week or two before we shoot.
Are
And
there
I'm just like totally in the dark about it before I get the scripts.
Are you ever, does any story developments when you read the script just, take you by surprise, you didn't see coming, and that?
Yes, definitely. When we got the last three scripts, people were like, "What?" Because the end is really kind of like it's like high kind of melodrama, which I like a lot. Um, but those scenes we didn't know about, and people were surprised by them.
Was there ever a moment where you think of your character in a certain way, and then you see a development or something she does, and it sort of changes your opinion of maybe Helen?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when there's one episode where we're in couples therapy, and Helen says this speech where she's like, I married you because you were safe, and I knew you'd never cheat on me, and I could have." She says, "I could have had anyone I wanted," and I was like, ugh, that's like harsh to say to someone, "I married you because you were safe." Not that I love. That was a surprise to me, and it was kind of. I thought it was mean, but it's also like it's part of. I understand that. I played it because it's interesting, but I was really surprised.
And that's something interesting. You never know if we might get to revisit that scene or something. We might actually see it from your point of view. You might actually be nicer than he remembered.
I wonder, I don't know, or meaner. That is just so mean to say to someone like, like I married you because I figured you'd never cheat on me. She even says she says I knew you'd never be successful. That was awful. But, she's being really honest.
Well, yeah, I want to, congratulate you on the first season of The Affair and the Golden Globe win for the show, and I want to wish you the best of luck at the Emmys coming up soon. Fingers crossed.
Thanks very much.
It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you. Bye.